Well, this is Baruch Fleischman, and you see I'm here at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel, and it is time for the morning meditation with Rabbi Yosef Chaim Mimran. This is a book, The Ultimate Connection with God. And the last couple of times we've been talking about, he mentioned the concept, and these are concepts that we need to have in mind that it's possible to watch your mind. Your higher self is the watcher, but it requires no thought because you're watching thoughts. You can get to a place that where you could be watching your thoughts. Now, it seems to me that in my life, every day is a potential crisis. There are crises in every day, not necessarily, but there are crises come out of nowhere. The question is that when we're dealing with them, how do we deal with them? So he says, as he's saying that its ability to be able to rise up beyond immediate thoughts. It doesn't mean that the thoughts are bad. It means that you have to be in control of them to see what they're doing because they could develop a life of their own. So he writes in the previous blurb, he says there is a vast amount of intelligence that can take you to realms above and beyond the limitations of thought alone. Now let's come over to the next one where he talked about. I thought that this was the same as the one I read last time, and maybe I am, but I don't think so. He says this is called part six. It's called hearing voices, and this time I'm going to read. This is the Ramchal, so we're going to read the Ramchal in Hebrew and translate. He said, "V'hine b'techila," at the beginning, "Yischazak his davkos aneshamos b'kedushaso yizbarach." So we're going to try to cause the flame within us, which is our neshama, to cling to the ultimate flame of the Holy One, blessed be He, b'kedushaso, in His holiness, may it be blessed. Shu inyan shaham shel akasav ki chelek Hashem imo. This is really the idea here, that the pasuk is trying to tell you that there's a chelek of Hashem that's with you all the time. And you could actually learn how to plug into that. This is a little bit what we're talking about. Because this is brought out at the beginning of Shir Hashirim. And he used this word, Yashkeni Benishikos Piho. So Yashkeni may kiss me with the kisses of his mouth. Shahu Mara Otzim his davko. So this is really a vision that is showing us the power of what it's like to cling to Hashem, that kind of desire to have mouth to mouth. That is the most intimate, some intimate connection with what's inside of you, with and the source from which it came. So he said, "Behind the shazeh min his davkos, this type of clinging, which is chazak, which is very strong, sheyuchel asos ben the kodesh baruch Knesset Yisrael can happen between the kodesh baruch. Now, normally the word Knesset Yisrael refers to malchus. That is possible to make a yichud between where you are and where the ultimate Most High is. So it's said Hanashika Ba'adam, it's similar to the way that people, when people kiss, is very intimate. That to get to that place, that's our goal. So he said, if you walk into a doctor's office and say, I hear a voice in my head, in all likelihood, you refer to a psychiatrist for treatment. Now, I think I heard this phrase before. Hearing voice is not considered acceptable in our society. Nonetheless, it is extremely common. The truth is, obviously, absolutely, everyone hears a voice, or perhaps several voices in his or her head, voices that are running constantly. Those voices are the thought processes that flow involuntarily through our minds. The ongoing monologues and dialogues, and we don't even realize that we are capable of stopping them because we have a constant flow of thinking that never stops. Surely at some point you've come across people walking down the street talking or muttering to themselves incessantly. Quite possibly you've simply written them off as mentally ill without giving them a second thought. But have you ever paid close attention to the workings of your own mind? Has it ever occurred to you that we and all the other normal people in the world are not so very different from those mentally ill individuals you've seen? The voices in our heads are continually commenting, speculating, judging, comparing, complaining, liking, disliking. What is unique about those we consider to be mentally ill is that they do all this out loud, while we generally keep our mental conversations to ourselves. All this chatter going on in our heads may have nothing to do with what is going on with us at the time. So we're walking down the street, but you're thinking about something that happened, or will happen. No matter what is happening right now, our minds may be busily involved in reliving the past, whether recent or distant, or it may be imagining or even rehearsing any number of possible future situations that may not actually occur. Often enough, it imagines things going wrong or negative outcomes, even the things that go wrong go right. So this is what we're thinking about. What's going to be the future? What's going to be this? What's going to be that? It's all bodily things that are constantly going on, which is what we call worry. And the mind may strengthen and intensify these thoughts by turning up the volume. You might even really get a big focus on this so that it's really, really close and really serious, adding visual images or even adding mental movies to the mix. That's what our thinking is like. But don't we need this the voice in our heads? It may be very relevant to the situation at hand. It may prove to be quite helpful. Perhaps we are sure that we won't be able to manage without it because these are defensive thoughts. These are the thoughts of survival. That's why I said the word physical body, because this really refers to the survival of a body, which could be serious. So he says even something like, even if the voice we hear is relevant, in all likelihood, it will interpret the situation in its own biased way by relating it to the past. We all tend to view the present through the eyes of the past, and that is how we judge almost everything in our lives. The reason for this is that our minds have been conditioned by our history, by all that we've experienced to the past, and not only what we have experienced, but we've inherited from our parents and our ancestors. We're living in a train of thought that preceded us. And what we've absorbed from the world around us, our environment, the culture in which we find ourselves, I can guarantee you that the way that people think in the United States is not the same way that people think in South America or in Europe or any of the European countries. The Germans call it Weltanschauung. It's how people absorb that everything is around them into their cultural pattern. So he says, from our world around us, the culture in which we find ourselves, and all the people with whom we come in contact, they are constantly impacting us. It is through this thoroughly conditioned mind, so that mind that is used to having all this input, that the voices in our heads belong. The voice in your head might be your own worst enemy. So many people live with the most unwelcome permanent resident in their mind, and it comes out to be worry, worry, worry. That resident is a professional tormentor, a voice that is continuously attacking and punishing them, causing them endless misery and unhappiness. It drains them of vital energy and may well result in broken relationships, stress related disorders, nervous breakdowns, heart attacks, strokes, and diseases. That can be what happens. Now let's look right now here as we go to this little blurb that he uses to try to sum this up. Let me bring this down a little bit. We'll look at it more closely. The sum up is this: so many people live lives with the most unwelcome, permanent resident in their minds. A professional tormentor, a voice that is continuously attacking and punishing them, accusing them. He left that word out, but this is a word that's very popular, causing them endless misery and unhappiness. Put you on the complete and total defense. This is Baruch Fleischman. This is Tikkun Elevator Cola, and we've been learning The Ultimate Connection with God by Rabbi Yosef Chaim Mimran.